Moje radio.
Welcome to the Balkan Files, the podcast where we explore history's most intriguing mysteries and unsolved cases. We are your hosts. My name is Chenyue.
My name is Hristo.
My name is Eva.
Today, we are diving into one of the most bizarre assassinations of the Cold War era, a murder that sounds like it came straight from a spy novel, involving a poisonous umbrella, a tiny metal pellet, and a Bulgarian descendant. September 7th, 1978, London's Waterloo Bridge, a seemingly ordinary Thursday evening that was soon turned deadly. A man named Georgi Markov was waiting at a bus stop when he felt a sharp sting in his thigh. When he turned around, he saw a man picking up an umbrella. A stranger muttered a quick sorry and hurried into a waiting taxi. Within 4 days, Markov would be dead. But who was Georgi Markov? And why would someone want him dead? To understand the story, we need to travel back to Bulgaria in the 1950s. The country was firmly under the communist control, with Todorova rising to power as the first secretary of the Bulgarian Communist Party. Bulgaria had become the Soviet Union's most loyal ally, often called the 16th Soviet Republic, despite not being part of the USSR. So, let's go back a little.
Bulgaria under Todorova was a place where loyalty to the party meant everything. The secret police, the DS, maintained a vast network of informants where people disappeared for speaking against the regime. But it was also a time of intense cultural control.
So, we actually had a government at one point. Jokes aside, enter Georgi Markov, born in Sofia, 1929, to a middle-class family. Initially, he studied industrial chemistry and worked as a chemical engineer, but his true passion was writing.
You know, by the early 1960s, he had become one of Bulgaria's most celebrated authors and playwrights.
Really? I had no idea. Did you?
The regime actually celebrated Markov's early works. His plays were performed at the Theatre of Satire in Sofia, but gradually his writing began to show subtle criticism of the system. He used metaphor and allegory to question the authority of the party.
Interesting. So, the breaking point came in 1969. Markov's play, The Man Who Was Me, was banned for its controversial content. Sensing the noose tightening, he made the dangerous decision to defect while on a trip to Italy.
This is London calling. This is London.
In London, he found a new voice as a broadcaster for the BBC World Service, the Radio Free Europe. His most powerful work was a series called In Absentia Reports about Bulgaria, where he exposed the corruption and excess of the communist elite.
Oh wow, so basically his voice reached deep into Bulgaria, telling truth that the communist regime wants to keep hidden.
Exactly, but Markov's powerful words had made him powerful enemies. In these months before his death, he had told old friends he feared for his life. Those fears, it turned out, were well-founded.
Let's break down what happened in those final days. After being stabbed with the umbrella, Markov developed a high fever. His condition deteriorated rapidly. When doctors examined him, they found a tiny red mark on his thigh, no bigger than a pinhead. At first, it seemed almost trivial, but this tiny wound would prove to be the key to one of the most sophisticated assassinations in Cold War history.
So, what exactly did they find?
What they found was extraordinary, a metal pellet measuring just 1.7 millimeters in a diameter, but what made it truly remarkable was its construction. It wasn't just any pellet, it was made of platinum-radium alloy with two microscopic holes drilled at the right angles, creating an ingenious delivery system for a deadly poison.
For that era, I think that's pretty impressive. Goddamn. The poison was used was ricin. The technical sophistication of its delivery system was remarkable. I feel like I've heard this before, but what exactly is it?
Ricin is a natural poison found in castor beans. What made this weapon so ingenious was its delivery mechanism. The pellet was made of precious metal alloy that wouldn't react with the poison. The two holes drilled into were perfectly sized to hold exactly 0.28 milligrams of ricin. At body temperature, the wax plug seals these holes would melt, releasing the poison.
I feel like I need more details. Like, how was this executed and done?
The precision engineering was extraordinary. The pellet size, 1.7 millimeters, was specifically chosen to lodge in the muscle tissue without hitting bone or major blood vessels. This allowed the poison to spread slowly, making his death appear natural at first. The platinum iridium alloy was chosen because it wouldn't show up on normal X-rays. Every aspect was designed for deniability.
The effects of ricin are particularly gruesome. Within hours, Markov experienced fever, nausea, and extreme pain. The poison works by preventing cells from making essential proteins, leading to organ failure. There is no antidote. Once ricin enters the bloodstream, doctors can only try to manage the symptoms.
But the story doesn't end there. Just 3 weeks before Markov's death, another Bulgarian defector, Vladimir Kostov, was attacked in Paris. The method? Identical. The weapon? The same type of sophisticated pellet. The difference? Kostov survived. Here's where the story takes an even more intriguing turn. The investigation revealed that the umbrella wasn't just a simple umbrella. It was essentially a disguised gun. Capable of firing these tiny poisoned pellets with remarkable precision, the weapon itself was never found, but similar devices were later discovered in the archives of the Bulgarian Secret Service. I feel like the aftermath of this extraordinary case is just as important as the case itself.
I agree. The investigation was like nothing anyone has ever seen before. They had the weapon, this incredibly sophisticated delivery system. They had the poison ricin, which pointed to state-level resources, and they had the motive, silencing the prominent critic of the Bulgarian regime. But providing who actually did it, that was another matter entirely.
I think to understand why Bulgaria would go to such lengths, we need to examine the political landscape of the time.
Yes, absolutely. So, Bulgaria in the 1970s was experiencing what we call a normalization, a process of strict ideological control after the Prague Spring of 1968. Zhivkov was terrified of the dissent. The country had the highest numbers of secret police per capita in the Eastern Bloc. Markov's broadcasts were reaching millions of Bulgarians, exposing their luxury lifestyle of party leaders, while ordinary citizens stood in bread lines.
Wait, so what was DC and where was this weapon even developed?
The DC, our secret service, was practically a bunch of KGB. They shared resources, training, and technology. The umbrella weapon itself was developed in the KGB's Laboratory 12, a secret facility specializing in poisonous and assassination techniques. This wasn't just about silencing one man, it was about sending a message to all of the descendant.
So you're saying the government was involved?
The Bulgarian government denied any involvement at the time, but the evidence pointed to his infamous Department of Security and Protection, known as the DS, working in collaboration with the Soviet KGB. Documents later reveal that the operation was codenamed Umbrella, suggesting that the murder weapon wasn't chosen randomly. One name that repeatedly came up in the investigation was Francisco Gulino, codenamed Piccadilly, a Danish-Italian art dealer recruited by the Bulgarian Secret Service. Gulino was identified as a prime suspect, but despite being interviewed by British investigators in 1993, he was never charged. He died in 2021, taking whatever secrets he might have known to his grave.
Honestly, the real tragedy of this case lies not just in the murder itself, but in what it represented. Markov was killed not for what he did, but for what he said. His words were deemed so dangerous that one of the most elaborate assassination plots in history was devised just to silence him.
What? This can be true. So today, the poison umbrella has become a symbol of a Cold War espionage and state-sponsored terrorism. The pilot that killed Markov is now displayed at the Scotland Yard's Crime Museum, a tiny but little reminder of how far some regimes will go to silence dissent.
In 2000, Bulgaria finally admitted that their secret service has been involved in Markov's murder, but many details remain classified, locked away in archives in Sofia and Moscow.
Georgi Markov's story is more than just a Cold War thriller. It's a reminder of the power of words and the lengths some will go to silence them. His death sparked international outrage and helped expose the brutal nature of communist regime in Eastern Europe. In his final broadcast before his death, Markov said something prophetic. Every act of resistance to tyranny, he declared, no matter how small, is a victory of freedom.
That's crazy.
This has been the Balkan Case Files. I'm Shen Chenyue. Keep an eye out for the next episode where we explore another fascinating case. Thanks for listening.
Bye!
Bye!
Bye-bye.